welcome to the latest episode of the Catalyst Health and Wellness Coaching Podcast. I'm your host, Dr. Bradford Cooper, and today we're going to jump into the very latest research on one of the most essential keys to health and wellness, behavior change. Now, if you were with us 2 weeks ago, our guest, Dr. Stefan Guillenet, noted that essentially we already know what needs to be done with our health and wellness, but it's the behavior change piece that's the key. So we were pretty excited that it worked out to have Dr. Nadja Walter join us this week, as that is the focus of her research. Dr. Walter is a postdoctoral researcher at Leipzig University in Germany. Her research, as I said, focuses on behavior change in diet and exercise and the psychological aspects that drive those changes. Now, I heard her speak when we were both presenting at a conference in Germany, and while she did express a little concern about English being her second language in terms of joining us as a guest, I think you'll agree she did a fantastic job. For those of you who are looking to earn your Wellness Coach certification before the MBHWC National Board Exam requirements change, our next fast track is February 8th and 9th in Colorado. That's the weekend after the Super Bowl and the week prior to the Physical Therapy Combined Sections meeting in Denver if you're a PT. You can find all the details and registration at catalystcoachinginstitute.com. And as always, feel free, reach out to us with any questions you have related to coaching, National Board Exam, or anything else along those lines at results@catalystcoachinginstitute.com. Thanks for joining us. Now let's listen in on the conversation with Dr. Walter on the latest episode of the Catalyst Health and Wellness Coaching Podcast. Dr. Walter, it is a pleasure to be here. Got to hear you in Germany at the FEPSAC conference. You did a fantastic job there. And I mentioned during the introduction that this is your second language, speaking in English. So you sound great to me, but the audience will know as we go through this that they wouldn't do any better. So thank you for jumping in. Very excited about the topic today. Behavior change is at the core of what wellness is all about. So the fact that you're spending and have spent years studying this, it's just a pleasure to have you join us.
Thank you, Brad, for these nice words and these nice introductions. Thank you very much. And yes, sometimes it's hard for me to find the right words because I'm always thinking in German and the German language. So please be patient when I have a lot of ands and as, and yeah, I try my best.
You sound great, and you're doing a lot better than I do in German. So we'll just go with that. Well, give us a little overview of your research, just kind of the wide angle view of some of the things you've been looking at, and then we'll take a deeper dive as we move forward.
Yeah, I'm a postdoctoral researcher at the Leipzig University since 2015, and my main research focus is on behavior change and on developing routines, strategies, and habits in exercise and diet. And that's what I'm working most. But I also investigate the dark side of exercise and physical activity, let's say exercise addiction or eating disorder. And I work as an applied sports psychologist with young athletes. But the most I focus on behavior change, and I try to find out what we really need to change behavior, because I think the most of us have made the experience that we start with a new behavior. We want to maintain this new behavior, and we've made the experience that this works very well for the first weeks, and then at some point, we can't be bothered, or we forget to practice our behavior or whatever. And I'm interested what kind of behavioral and what kind of psychosocial requirements are needed to maintain a new behavior in a sense of a habit, and to not only to be a strategy or routine, more in a sense of a habit, that we won't miss this behavior in our life, and that we want to do it frequently and want to do it, let's say, automatically.
Perfect.
So,
and it's so timely. We just interviewed Dr. Guillenet, who wrote the Hungry Brain a couple weeks ago, and he literally said the missing link is the behavior change. He said, we know all the things to do. We know the information. It's the application piece that's missing. So having you join us today is fantastic. How did you get to the point of studying behavior change? What was the draw? What was the initial catalyst that took you that direction?
To be honest, this research topics has fallen into my lap. Honestly,
Really?
when I started my work at Leipzig University in 2015, my former boss asked me to hold a lecture with the topic learning theories. And I was preparing and I read a really, really good book about this. And there was this really interesting study. The study was by a colleague in the UK. Her name is Philippa Lely. And the study was conducted in 2010, or it was published in 2010. And it was an intervention study, and she asked around 100 students to choose one eating, drinking, or activity behavior which should be carried out daily in the same context for 12 weeks. And they had to fill out several questionnaires every day. And Lely found out that it only takes 84 days to maintain or to stabilize this behavior in a sense of a habit. And when I read this article, it was fantastic. It was like, hey, I would like to do this as well. And my let's say my overall vision is to formulate the sentence: you only have to do this behavior for 3 months, every day, always in the same time, always in the same context, and then it will become a habit. And that would be the greatest sentence you can say to somebody who maybe is obese or overweight and really wants to lose weight. That would be the perfect message, I would say. That's my overall vision, but I'm a little bit away from this.
Yeah, no, that's fascinating. And I like what you're saying there about, it's not, you're not saying to the person, okay, you need to figure out a way to do this for 5 years before it sticks. You're saying 84 days, like literally a quarter from now, it'll be established if you stay with
3
it.
Months.
Right.
Yeah, it's
right.
less than 3 months. So it would be great to have this sentence.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay, so that came from her study, and that was the catalyst or the lead-in for you. What are some of the most fascinating discoveries you've made in your research that maybe our listeners haven't heard before when it comes to behavior change, or some of the things that have grabbed your attention?
At first, what I said before was that I not only focus on the development of habits, I also have an eye on strategies and routines. And at first, we had a cross-sectional study with a questionnaire, with an online questionnaire, where we collected altogether 47 strategies in the field of diet and physical activity. And these were the typical eating strategies like chewing every bite 32 times, or use smaller plates, or turn off the TV while you are eating. These typical strategies you use to maybe eat less or eat less sugar, or to be more physical activity. For example, listen to music, or take your sportswear to work, something like that. And we've collected these strategies. And in our online questionnaire, we asked our participants to rate these strategies. They had to rate if they are using these strategies, or if they ever had heard about these strategies. And in the second step, they had to rate if these strategies they were using, or they are already used, or they are still using these strategies. They have to rate if these strategies were effective, or just for a short time, or had a long-lasting effect. So, and what we found out is that action planning strategies are used most and more frequently, and they were rated as more effectively than strategies for their barrier management. We have categorized the strategies into different categories. These categories were action planning, acute barrier management, and precautionary management, for example, and rating consequences and goal setting. And we found out that there's a big difference between acute barrier management and precautionary barrier management between strategies in diet and physical activity. That was quite interesting. We found out that people use precautionary barrier management more for diet. Let's say something, don't do the grocery hungry, and don't buy sweets that you don't fall into temptation, and that they were rated as quite effectively. And
so can we take a step back, because this is really fascinating, and I'm trying to jot some notes down. So the 4 categories are action planning, acute barrier management, precautionary barrier management, and then what was the 4th?
Rating consequences. So what consequences will my behavior have? Okay. For example, when I lose weight, I will I will get into shape, for example, okay. Or I will I will fit into the trousers I bought a year ago. And we had another it was goal setting.
So there are actually 5 categories then.
Yeah.
Okay. Very good. And what would be an example of the action planning? I think we understand acute barrier management is in the moment. I'll say this and you can correct me. Acute barrier management would be in the moment things that you're doing to make adjustments. Is that accurate?
Yes, that's right.
And then precautionary barrier management, you talked about that. That's the planning not to buy cookies, not having ice cream in the house. Consequences is almost future self, seeing this is how it's going to influence my life. And then the last one is goal setting, which people are probably relatively familiar with. Can you walk us through the action planning piece?
Yeah. For example, note your appointments, or use everyday affairs, or use apps. For example, if you go to work and there's an elevator or escalator and there are also stairs, action planning would be use every day the stairs, or write your appointments down. That you are it's like a reminder. If you when in your schedule is written down that you have an appointment for physical activity, there will be no other appointment.
Right.
That's
okay. What gotcha. So you're planning for those things in advance, different from barrier management in advance.
Yeah.
Okay.
It's
very
like
good.
Implementation goals. Yeah, implementation.
Perfect. Okay. And I interrupted you. Sorry. Keep going with that. I just want to make sure the audience had their arms around those 5 categories.
Yeah. In these 5 categories, we have several strategies. Participants had to rate these strategies in 2 steps. The first step was to say if they have ever used the strategy or if they are still using the strategy. And the second step was to rate the efficiency of the gotcha. Strategies. And we found this big difference between precautionary barrier management and acute barrier management, between eating and behavior and physical activity strategies. And the results showed that the acute barrier management was used more frequently for diet strategies, and acute barrier management was used more for physical activity strategies. And regarding the efficiency, it was vice versa. The acute barrier management strategies were less effective for eating strategies, and the precautionary barrier management strategies were less effective for physical activity behaviors. And we explained it with the emotional feeling when you are eating. Because one acute barrier management strategy for the eating activity was, for example, switch off the TV while you are eating, or use smaller plates. So imagine when you are in a nice restaurant and you are at an all-you-can-eat restaurant, and you are in a really nice conversation with your friends. The food smells and looks really delicious. There's something what happens to you or to people who want to eat less sugar or less food, that they won't use the smaller plates. Or imagine you are sitting with your friends together in front of the TV, and you're watching the finals of a soccer match or NFL match, and then the pizza, and we say, so we have to switch off the TV because we want to eat. And there's this special moment when the last minutes in the game are, and all the people would say, "Are you kidding me? We can't switch off the TV now." So that's what we really assume, that there's an emotional aspect while you are eating, particular when you're in company.
Very interesting. Very interesting.
That was really the other interesting thing was the first time we conducted this online questionnaire was with healthy people. And they were quite active, at least once a week. And then we conducted a really similar questionnaire with people with medical indications, and they recorded actually the same things. And it was quite comparable to these two samples.
Really? Why do you think that was?
Because we are all human.
Yeah.
And we all like to eat, and
right.
Sometimes we have this, or in German we have the saying, this inner little pig. We want to get over it. When we want to exercise more, there's always this little pig inside us who says, "Come on, stay on the couch."
I think we have that in America too. That's funny. Okay, so let's pop in. I heard you speak in Germany, you talked about the difference between what we do in the first few weeks of attempted change, and then what we do or usually don't do a month or more into the process and fall back into our old habits. Now, you talked about the 84 days. So if we can get 3 weeks going, we get that ball rolling, we're making progress, and then suddenly we fall off. Can you walk the audience through some of the things you shared at the conference with that?
Yeah, we conducted in 2016 and 2017 an intervention study, or I would say it's more an experimental study because we had no intervention group and control group. We conducted a study where we asked participants to choose one healthy behavior they haven't practiced so far. Let's say eating a banana for breakfast or drinking one bottle of water after. Something new, yeah. What you haven't done before. So what you want to establish in your life as a daily routine, as a habit. So, and we ask our participants to choose one of this eating, drinking, or physical activity behavior. They were asked to carry out this behavior for 12 weeks, and then we have a look at how often did they practice this behavior per week, how consistently. In the sense of always at the same time or always at a random time, and we also ask them how they felt during the week, activated, depressed. And we found out that participants who practice their behavior less often and less consistent compared to participants who practice their behavior more often and more consistently, they dropped out by week 4 or 5. And participants who practice their behavior always at the same time, let's say for lunch or before dinner or after getting up, and they practice at least 3 or 4 times a week, they established a habit in the first 5 to 8 weeks, and that was the thing what was quite new for us, that it is not only the behavior we choose, it's also the behavioral requirements that obviously develop a habit. And that were our results.
Okay, so circling, again, I'm jotting notes down here just to reset what you said there. So the same time mattered. If I did whatever it is, I start to exercise. The fact that I exercise at the same time every day, doesn't matter when it is, but if it's the same time, that improved my odds of continuing it. Is that part A of what your findings were?
Yeah, that's right. It is the environment plays a critical role in the developmental process. It's like an environmental cue, and it's a time cue. That means
interesting.
That is one of these typical antecedents to develop a habit.
Very interesting. Okay, and then the frequency you said was the other piece. 3 to 4 times a week was significantly better than 1 or 2 times a week.
Yeah, that's right.
And with that, you then found they were able to establish a habit within this kind of 4 to 6 week period versus the 84 days that we looked at in the previous study from 2010. Did I hear that right?
Yeah, that's right. We've used to assess the habit formation process. We've used a specific questionnaire. It's the so-called self-report habit index. And the self-report habit index is a 12-item questionnaire asking a specific behavior. Let's say exercising in the morning is something with 12 items, for example, that I do frequently, or that I do automatically, or that makes me feel weird if I don't do this behavior. And the participants had to rate these 12 items on a 5-point Likert scale from disagree to agree. And the higher the self-report habit index, the more stable is the behavior. And we have seen that in the first 5 to 6 weeks, the self-report habit index or the self-report habit index increased significantly for those people who practice their behavior always at the same time and at least 3 to 4 times per week, compared to those who practice their behavior less consistently and less regularly.
Okay, excellent.
And and the thing is, after these 6 weeks, people reach like a stable plateau. From this time, so let's say about week 6 or 7, they reached a score. What the original authors of the self-report habit index said that this can be considered as a habit.
Wow,
and
that's so exciting.
That are the first weeks. So, and the thing is, we only had 12 weeks. It would be really interesting, and that is the next intervention study or experimental study I want to conduct. How does it work for more than 3 months, for half a year?
Right.
How does it work for a longer time?
Right. Okay. Well, you've partially answered my next question, but I'll just throw it out there to see if there's anything else you'd like to add, because I think you've already given the audience a huge cue here with the same word, actually, the time cueing and then that frequency being so important. Are there other critical aspects to effectively changing our behavior and sustaining it? Because that's what we're all about. Everyone listening, almost everybody listening to this podcast, that's what they're about. They're either helping others with behavior change or they're interested in creating their own behavior change and sustaining it. So you've given us a couple of great nuggets. Anything else that you'd want to throw out there for them?
Yeah, what I've explained so far was the process when I already have chosen my behavior. There are a few things to consider before you start with your behavior. And I don't want to talk too much about the theoretical basis and the theoretical background, but there are about 4 to 5 psychological factors that should be considered to be successful in setting up or maintain a new behavior. And that is, on the one hand, the strength of your goal intention, the strength of your goal, the so-called self-concordance of this goal.
What does that mean?
Your action plan. Self-concordance means how does the goal suit to my own goals? Is it a goal that is given from my partner or from my employer? For example, if your partner says to you, I want you to lose weight, and you don't want to lose weight at all because you feel fine,
right,
and you don't have the pressure or something like that, your self-concordance is not high enough, and you won't.
It's essentially intrinsic motivation.
Yeah, it's intrinsic. It's a part of intrinsic motivation.
Okay,
yes.
Beautiful.
And you have to find a goal, and you have to formulate your goal and your plans with the SMART criteria. I always say. Have you ever heard about SMART criteria?
Yeah, and I think most of our folks are relatively familiar with that, just in terms of being measurable and having a time frame and those types of things.
Yeah, and that is one of the most important facts, because if you only have global intentions, you will only practice global global behavior. Global
Very
intentions
interesting.
lead to a global behavior. And the more specific, the more attractive, the more realistic and time-bounded your goal is, the more is it likely to be maintained. And that's
very good reminder.
One of the most important things.
Okay.
And that are the two I think most important before you start with your behavior. You also have to think about potential barriers. What kind of alternatives you can prepare for these barriers. Let's say your goal is to run every day, or let's say every Tuesday for 40 minutes around the park or the block or whatever. And then you have Tuesday and it's 6 o'clock and it is raining. So the most people would say, okay, it's raining, I can't run because it's raining. I don't like to run in the rain. Then you have to find alternatives for bad weather, in the field of diet, for munchies or whatever. And that's also a big fact. In our experimental study, we also assessed the barriers because we have asked our participants how often did they practice their chosen behavior. And they could rate it between 0 times a week and 7 times a week. When they rated their behavior only 5 times a week, we've asked them immediately what barriers they had to face. For example, I couldn't be bothered, or I had appointments, or whatever, and to more the barrier effect. And the thing is, when they had too many appointments and they had too many distracting things in their life, they did not pursue their behavior as it intended. So these barriers you have to think about prior to the beginning.
So I've got strength of goals, self-concordance, which is a portion of intrinsic motivation, SMART goals, thinking about potential barriers and working through those. Did I miss any?
And at the end, you have to think of your outcome experience as well. Because, and that's what we've assessed in the first study I've mentioned with the consequences.
Yeah.
If the behavior you want to practice in your daily routine has no good outcome experience, you won't pursue it. And that's why that's also one of the antecedents of habits. When let's say you exercise for 40 minutes, then you go out of the exercise or out to workout with a really good feeling, and you're proud of you that you've done this exercise or this workout, even if it was raining. And this good feeling leads you to do the same behavior again. Do you know what I mean? It's like a
totally.
A positive reward.
Right, positive loop.
And the theoretical background, sorry about that, and theoretical background is a learning theory, like classical condition.
Mm-hmm.
You know, when you are rewarded with something nice, you want to have this feeling again.
Right.
And then you do the behavior more regularly, because you want to have this feeling again.
Okay. This is so good. You've really answered my next question as well. I think you're reading my mind here, but anything else for people that are trying to help others? So these would be coaches, or somebody's trying to help a friend or a family member or something like that. You've given us a lot of tips. You've given us these 5 things they need to think about. You've talked about the importance of time cueing and frequency. You've walked us through the idea of, it's 5 to 6 weeks, 84 days at the most. Anything else that if you were coming alongside someone else that you might include in the conversation?
Sometimes I also work as a personal trainer, and I've made the experience that clients are interested in facts and reasons why we do these things. Mm-hmm. And I would suggest that if your client has a lot of questions in his or her head, you have to explain why you give him this strategy or this method, or you suggest this. Sometimes they need a little bit, a few scientific aspects. Well, that's what I've made as my experience as a personal trainer. That's the more practical thing, and then the things I already said. that you have to be self-confident if you want to change your behavior, because if you are not confident enough that you will face and you will overcome the barriers, then it would not happen. It will not happen. Okay. And you have to set your own goal. It's useless to take somebody another goal from your partner or from the media or from wherever. It should be your own goal, and it should be connected. It should be something what you can identify with. When you say that's typical me,
right?
So, right. And you should ask your clients for patience, and they should be patient, because it's a long time. And when we talk about behaviors you want to get rid of it, that's another really interesting field. I want to be more active in stable behaviors. We have practiced for a long time, and a long time for me that are months and years. You can't assume that you can get rid of them in between 1, 2, 3 weeks or 4, 5 months.
Right.
And that's
exactly.
That's what I always say. Please be patient with yourself.
Okay, good. All right, let's turn the mirror around a little bit here. How have you, or are you, applying your research in your own behavior change efforts? Is there something that you're working on now? Because we've all got our stuff. I could give you a long list for me, but we've all got our stuff. Is there something that you're working on now that you don't mind sharing with us and talking through how you're using your research in your own life?
Yeah. Actually, I got 2 behaviors that I started with because I've read that it's healthy. For example, I always eat 1 boiled egg for breakfast. Because a few years ago I've read that 1 boiled egg for breakfast is quite healthy because of all the protein in it, and it keeps you going until lunchtime.
Uh-huh.
That's why I thought for myself, okay, 1 boiled egg every day, it's okay. And I did this for a long time, and now when I have breakfast and I don't have a boiled egg with me, it feels weird. And I really want to have this boiled egg. Sounds weird, but this is one. And I also have a physical activity behavior. What I see as a habit. I have to drive my car to work. There's a little distance between my home and my work, and I have a home office day every Thursday. To avoid the typical traffic in the morning, I get up every day at 5 o'clock to avoid the traffic, and I'm always at around 6 in the city where my office is. And because I have long working hours, I can't be bothered to do my exercise or my workout after
Right.
work. So I always do my exercise and my workouts before I go to my office, and that's why I always exercise in the morning, and that has another positive effect, that I get fresh air and that I have already done my exercise, that's my workout. And driving my car from my home to Leipzig, the city I work, is like preparing for my exercise. And on my home office days, I don't exercise because I don't have this way to the exercise. You know what I mean?
Very
and that's
interesting.
What I've meant is you need the special and stable context and stable time. And that was also my motivation. Yes, it works. It works if you are patient, and if you do really do your exercise regularly at the same time in the same context, it will be stabilized in the sense of a habit. So I don't want to be selfish and say, I'm the best practice, but it is. That's a really
that cueing is very interesting. Very interesting. Huh. All right. Well, good. Thanks for sharing that with us. So now the phone genie question. The phone genie comes to your office tomorrow and says, all right, Dr. Walter, you get to put a message on everybody's phone home screen tomorrow morning. What would that message be?
That's a really, really tough question. And
oh, yeah.
When I presented my science slam in Münster this year in the conference, I had the slogan 4 for 12 plus events and can we make habits daily. What means 4 times a week for 12 weeks with the same stable context at the same time, and a positive reward, a positive feeling afterwards, helps you to establish a habit. But this sentence may be too long and more than 140 items via Twitter. It doesn't mean. So maybe something like be smart and start.
Oh, there we go. Be smart and start, and then dial in the cues.
Yes. Yeah.
I really appreciate it. This is fantastic. Mm-hmm. Thank you for taking a jump with us in terms of the language, and I think you did an awesome job. I appreciate you doing that.
Thank you very much. Yes, it's not the best grammar and.
No, you did a great job, and I think people are going to love the information because you gave us a lot of new insights that probably most people weren't familiar with many of these.
Yeah, and that's why most people feel connected with it, because they've made a similar experience, and we feel addressed when I say, have you ever tried to change your behavior and it works well for the first weeks, and then there comes this big hammer and then you can't be bothered, or you forgot what you have done, or something like that. And you can apply it to actually every setting.
Yes.
It is the athlete setting to develop routines and competition strategies and competition habits, and you can implement it in the medical setting as well as in school setting, and that's why it is so interesting.
Thank you. This was fantastic. I appreciate you jumping in.
Thank you.
Fascinating. After 30 years as a PT and 15 years in health and wellness, I thought I heard it all when it came to behavior change. Great reminder. There's always more to learn, isn't there? Thanks again to Dr. Walter for joining us. Wonderful insights. Quick note about the Rocky Mountain Coaching Retreat and Symposium. Some of you know about it. We launched it this year in 2019 for the first time. Our goal was to go beyond the typical conference, to provide the CEUs, to provide the chance to enhance your skill set, but do it in a setting and with a schedule with some gaps, some chances to breathe and get re-energized and rejuvenated, all those kinds of things. The feedback from this last year's event was so encouraging. We decided we're going to do this every year. So it is scheduled for September 18th through the 20th, 2020 in Estes Park, Colorado. Beautiful setting, beautiful time of the year. At a minimum, you may want to just pencil the date in as you're planning your year in the coming weeks and months. If you know you're coming and you want to save some money, we do have what we're calling a super early registration discount available through December 31st. You can check out all the details, catalystcoachinginstitute.com, or contact us anytime, results@catalystcoachinginstitute.com. In the meantime, let's go get better. And let's help those around us do the same. After the conversation with Dr. Walter, we all have some new tools in our toolbox, but they don't do any good if they remain in the toolbox. It's up to us to put them to use. Thanks again for joining us. This is Dr. Bradford Cooper signing off. Make it a great rest of your day, and I'll speak with you soon on the next episode of the Catalyst Health and Wellness Coaching Podcast.